What's going on, guys? So we're back again with another gameplay video. This time we have Michael here on the left playing SS4 Bardock from the Annie box, and we have Jesse here on the right playing Zamasu and Goku Black. So just before they get started into the gameplay video, I want to give a huge shout out to our sponsor, Team Card Titan. So if you guys want any DBS Seal products or DBS singles, make sure you check out that link in the description below. So SS4 Bardock, really cool deck. A lot of effects happening all at once. Obviously, getting effects when you play cards, getting effects when you charge cards, but then also having effects on the leader as well when you've got your 4+ energy or however many energy to meet the requirements for each one. I believe it's 2, 3, and 4. Really, really powerful, and obviously getting pluses as well on the front with this swing. It is very, very strong deck. Kind of combats quite a few things in the meta. Very good against Boo Unison unless you're able to pay kind of a lot of markers for it, because that is a card you do want to hang around. And I guess what happens is Bardock can clear it so very, very easily. And then Zamasu as well, another excellent deck. Really good way to get out that card that's just being charged, Tragedy Overground, right? That card's absolutely ridiculous and obviously has the inbuilt win con. I believe it's 8 energy. Once they get to 8 energy, you just kill 4 life, or you bottom deck 4 life. So you can kind of win that way, which is pretty insane. Now, the good thing, I guess, about this deck as well is that Bardock has a chance to awaken early if needed, right? Which probably will occur, I would say. We'll probably go for the early awaken and can stay at that higher life total until they need to start using things like super combos. So it's going to be interesting to see how this actually plays out. But great card here being played. So SS4 is cool. Check in the top. Gonna find hopefully 2 SS4 in the top, fingers crossed. Looks like we're just going 1. Maybe there was 2, but Sidoti doesn't want to have to bottom deck 1 potentially or get rid of it. So keeping what's in his hand, just taking the 1 card that he needs, just extra energy. So we've got a blue-red now. And then we want to try to get you green and yellow so we can get our early awaken if there's nothing we can play out. Swinging into lead here, checking the top, finding SS4, right? So as long as it has SS4 in its name, I'm pretty sure it can be grabbed. So we're going to grab the SS4 Gogeta, which again, a wall of text with how many colors you have in your energy. Amazing thing it is quad strike, but yeah, honestly, the red fact, when you have your red and you deal a damage just on your play is ridiculous. You get to draw 3 cards when you got your blue. And then green, you discard 2 on it as well. Yellow, you get to rest a card. And then black, you send 2 cards to the warp. It's absolutely ridiculous. Very easy to get as well. Just because you do obviously run all these multis that come in with no energy exhaust as well. It's awesome. It's really, really nice for Michael here. Now, he does have access to his red, so he has got his counterplays up as well, which is pretty good for him. I think that's usually the color you want to have up is like your red, or you untap your blue so you get your beans and things like that, depending on what you've got in your hand. So we're going to swing. We're going to grab ourselves a super combo here. Very good super combo. See what happens here. So it looks like we're just going to swing in, grab a super combo, and then pass turn, it looks like here. Not really doing too much in these early turns. What we do want to hit is probably your Goku Blacks and things soon. But Michael here can potentially awaken, right? So we should be able to play something out for 2 energy here and actually get our awaken off if we need to. So we are going to grab a Bardock. So we're going to grab Vegeta instead of Bardock. So maybe we have a few in hand. Again, very good card because then we can play that off out of one of the attacks as well to set up our Gogeta too, because we can do that. We can get them out onto the board, which is quite nice. So that's probably something we want to do. Or we can even use it. I believe it's from the hand as well, so we can do that too. But that card is just absolutely insane. It's such a strong card when it actually comes down. So we are going to grab a yellow here, another yellow, which is quite nice for him. Good thing as well is this deck is very good against the Boo Unison, as I've said before. The fact that you can, obviously, minus a marker on the swing, your leader's also a 20k, so that takes pretty much 2 markers, and then you also have cards that take markers either on the play or on the charge as well, is very, very strong. So, very good to deal with blue, I feel like. So, if you want a deck that's kind of versatile, very toolboxy, deals with blue, if that's happening a lot in your meta, obviously, this is a pretty good deck for you. So, it looks like we're going to do the Awaken as well. Drawing our 2, because we've got our colors now, which is quite nice. I always forget that they count as the 2, so we've got the black and then whatever the other color is as well. So he does have, I believe it's the 4 that you do need to actually get your awaken. But the good thing is because you've got black, blue, red, yellow, so you've got your 4 just there, so we can get the early awaken, which is nice. And as I said, if he can stay on this higher life total, if he does get to the 8 energy, I guess it's not as scary, but it's always a hard thing if he does get to the 8 energy. What will happen is you have 2 turns to kind of win the game, or you got to find a way to maybe get rid of energy, which I don't think this deck really can do at all. So grabbing the Zamasu here that allows you to ramp. So we may hit either a ramp, so then we can start to establish our Zamasus and try to get into our Tragedy Overground. But for Jesse, I guess in this deck, right, Tragedy Overground, very, very difficult thing to deal with for most decks. But he probably wants to do it more once your opponent has kind of put a few cards on the board. It's not as valuable early on. It's probably preferable to do it actually later once they've actually started to establish quite a bit of a board, so you can get that ramp going, right? So if you start getting that ramp going, that's when you're going to get the most benefit. So we did flip, unfortunately, a Fu Shrouded just there, so it is a black energy. Depending on what he's got in hand, obviously you can still use this as energy. We are going to put a Goku Black in there, so potentially we have... No, we don't, because we've hit the blue, unfortunately. We don't have the chance to go into the Tragedy Overground, which kind of sucks. So I believe it is 4 blue to actually get the Evolve into it. But we are going to go for our Awaken here. Hitting into this. Now, maybe it's 3, or maybe it is 4. I can't remember. I thought it was 4. Maybe I'm wrong. Potentially it is 3 for the Evolve, which is quite nice. If it is the 3, that's good. And then he can go into his Tragedy. Or you can just keep that card out on the board. It is indestructible. Only way to really deal with it is get the minuses. And he does have things that do minus in the deck. But very, very powerful card if you can get that out early. Zamasu is a great card against SS4 Vegeta as well, right? This leader, obviously SS4 Vegeta already wanting to ramp. They can get to that 8 energy pretty quickly. And then you can kind of kill them that way, unless they can kill you first, right? Which is pretty insane. But again, if you can hit an early Tragedy, it kind of prevents that whole thing from happening. So we are going to potentially sack it. I'm not too sure here. I would say probably hold on to it. I don't think it's really needed to get rid of. Looks like we're going to max power Kamehameha to just negate, it looks like. And then we're going to sack it and put the Tragedy out. Okay. So we do have to lose that life, that energy at the end as well. So we're going to hit the Tragedy. So we are negating, and then we're passing turn, right? So now Tragedy, good thing with this deck, I guess, right? So the sad thing is SS4 Gogeta is now off the table, okay? But pretty much everything else that this deck plays is either 2 or 3 costs, which is perfect in this, I guess, matchup, because then we can put a little bit of pressure. And as I said, you can deal with that Boo Unison quite easily as well, which is exactly what you want. Being able to deal with the Boo Unison quickly is always beneficial to you. I think blue players always want that card to hang around for as long as possible because it is such a great card. So we are going to swing in to leader. Now we do have the full 4 now, so we've got all the colors, right? So what we can do is we get the full effect. So you would gain the 5k, you would minus a marker. We do get to draw a card as well, which is quite great for Michael here. That's where he wants to be at, right? He wants to be at that spot where he does get the draws every turn, so he can start building up that advantage too. So we are going to hit the Bardock, drawing a card, thinning our deck a little bit more, which is always beneficial as well. Just seeing more cards in this matchup, always good too. Swinging, I'm assuming, into leader. Now, the good thing is this is, I guess, another thing that gets underneath Tragedy too. So it means you can establish a few more things. Jesse's hand's building up quite a bit. He's drawn quite a few cards as well, but I think Michael would be on par, if not have more. Getting to untap an energy at the end of turn, just there as well with his leader effect is great. So we are going to swing in. I'm assuming here probably into the Unison because we know we're going to lose our 5k if we swing into the leader. So probably swing into the unison here. Losing a marker. Not really having a good way, I guess, at this time to keep it in check, potentially. But anyway, just trying to keep it at lower markers. So if you do the minus, he does lose a little bit. So we've got 4 energy here to play with, which is quite nice. And we do have some blue yellows. Now, potentially you go for your Boo, or maybe you even go for the Goku Black that's actually on board, in energy right now. So that Goku Black allows you to play, I believe it is, I think it's 3 or 4 tokens. Can't remember off the top of my head. They are all 10Ks, but they all do gain blocker as well, which is quite nice too, right? So we are going to hit the Boo Unison for 4. Obviously, getting a draw and untap, always really strong. But as I said, this deck, very easy to deal with this Boo Unison. But it looks like Jesse, what he's trying to do is prioritize getting this Unison off the board. So it's one less thing that can swing, and he gets draws and things like that out of it too. So untapping energy at the end of turn. I can't remember if it states it has to be mono blue off the top of my head. I cannot remember. It may be, but he does get to untap an energy end of turn. So I'm hoping it is a multicolor, and that's fine. So Michael has cards as well that when he charges, can actually remove markers from unisons too, right? So there is that potential that he can charge one of those guys, remove a marker from the unison, right? And then what he can do is hopefully swing with leader, minus another marker, swing at it with a 20k. If it doesn't get negated, there is 3 markers gone potentially just for that. And then hopefully you can play something else out that also removes a marker. So it looks like, I think we're hitting this, I believe is it Bardock? I think it is the Bardock one here, which allows us to choose a battle card or a unison card and minus it 2k for each color in the energy, right? And then we get to swing, so we can, as I said, minus 2 markers here, which is quite nice from him. Playing out another Bardock as well, so getting our draws once again, just having a think of what he wants to charge here. Sorry, I guess pay for. Plussing 1, I'm assuming, to draw a card once again. I would say swinging into this Boo Unison. We just want to get it off the board just as soon as possible. The longer that card hangs around, the stronger it gets, I feel like, right? And the minusing is very, very strong as well on your opponent's turn. Just deal with big threats, which unfortunately Michael's not really able to play too many big threats now, but he has quite a few little cards that he can get out onto the board as well. And the good thing, I guess, them being 16Ks too, is a little bit annoying for the opponent. You always have to start comboing up or swinging with things that are bigger. So I'm assuming swinging into the Boo Unison once again here. Looks like maybe we went into leader because we are comboing out. So potentially that was going into leader, just 15 to 15. Maybe Michael didn't want to combo up into Boo. We have still taken potentially 2 markers off it, I would say. Probably a good thing to keep that hand in check a little bit. Michael not really playing too many cards out onto the board during his turn, which is interesting. He's probably keeping more energy up for like his counter plays and his counter attacks and things like that, which I completely understand. The other good card as well is the SS4. I believe it's SS4 Gohan, which acts like a dormant potential, right? Good thing for Jesse is he is charging multicolors, so he has got potentially 2 more attacks if that occurs, which is quite nice for him. So having access to, I guess, 2 more swings is always beneficial rather than just the 1. A lot of decks are running mono these days, but he would have access to 2 because he's got blue and yellow in his energy. So very strong card that kind of can slow down the opponent quite a bit. And again, just give you more time, which I think the more time this Bardock deck gets as well is very, very powerful. Cool. So we're grabbing the SR Zamasu. I'm not too sure how many Jesse is running of this. It may be just a 1-off, so just grabbing that off the top. Always good, but again, he's keeping his board pretty clear, not really putting anything out. And that's potentially also why Michael isn't really putting any more cards on the board as well, because he's worried that as soon as he does put cards on the board, all that's going to happen is they're just going to ramp all of those cards. He's going to have a high energy. So I'm surprised he did start charging past where he's at now. He probably doesn't really have to charge too much more. I'd probably stop at this point, right? So he can potentially stop charging, so then it doesn't put him too close to that 8 at all, right? So we are playing the Goku Black, right? Now we are going to, it looks like, counter here with the Bardock. Now I believe the counter is occurring more on the play of the tokens. So what he can do is he can clear the 3 tokens, or the 3 or 4, I cannot remember how many you actually get to play. But what he's doing is clearing the tokens. So all of them get hit because they all are under 20k in that play window. So he's hitting all of them in that one, which is quite nice for him as well. It's less, I guess, less attacks into his leader that could be 15, but also allowing his attacks now to actually trigger and happen. And he will be trying to, I guess, clear these opponents' life as soon as possible, right? Because the longer this game goes on, the better it gets for Zamasu. I feel like more likely you get to that 8 energy. Keep charging, you definitely get into that 8 energy. So Jesse here still having, I believe it is a 20k as well for this Goku Black right here, which is quite nice. So still a decent swing into leader. So it looks like swinging into leader here, as expected. Trying to put some pressure on. This is one of those decks that, like, we can sit back a little bit if we need to. Good thing here, though, I would assume that Jesse's probably running Eliminators. Okay, so what he has access to now is, because his Boo will untap at the end of this turn, what he would have access to is the Eliminator. So if he does try to play anything out onto the board this next turn, what can happen is we can clear it. So looks like what we're doing is we are going to combo and then pay an energy each to play these out onto the board as well. So it is the Goku and the Vegeta both come in rest mode, right? So we can, with the Vegeta, you can tap something down with 3 or less, I believe. And then with the yellow, you can actually negate the skills for the turn of the Unison as well. Fortunately for Jesse, he's already triggered the Boo Unison. So we are untapping to, as I said, now have access to Eliminators if we need, right? Which is quite nice here. So having access to Eliminators is great, so that he can counterplay if he needs to on something. I would assume Michael here probably not charging anymore. I think 5 energy is more than enough for this deck. Having 2 reds as well is quite good for him. So he has access to his counterplays as well to try to stop too much flooding. So probably once again swinging into, I'm assuming here, Boo Unison, swinging into Boo and then probably taking that last marker off, unless it's only got 1 marker, which potentially it does. Okay, so maybe it's only got the 1 marker. So then he can swing either into the Goku Black or swing into the leader here and make him kind of burn a few more cards. So it looks like we are going to negate. Jesse must have been on 2 markers, so we are just losing 1 marker, which I think is a good choice as well. Now, if I was Michael, I probably would just swing into the Boo. Or actually, we could start swinging into the leader, and then if Jesse wants to use the -1, that's fair enough as well, because it gets rid of a card on the board, right? So you potentially can do that if you wish. More than likely, though, now he's got access to 2 Eliminators. So what he can do is he can establish potentially 2 Eliminators if we do start trying to play something out onto the board, and then that gives him access to the Zamasu he was talking about before, or the one that we saw before, the SR, or it gives him access to the other Zamasu that allows him to play out Tragedy Overground, right? So if he feels like he wants to replace that one, because he can ramp at the moment, technically 3 energy, right? So we can get the opponent closer to that 8 energy and then try to close out the game that way, right? So there's always that potential. So he may want to actually keep these cards on the board rather than bottom decking them, if he knows that he can go into that next turn, or some way to actually place these cards into the energy so we can try to close out the game with alternate win con as well, right? And that would be pretty nice for him. That's a pretty cool little win con they have inbuilt into the leader. So looks like swinging into Boo. Yep, just got a -1, just bottom deck. Okay, so potentially Jesse doesn't have access to, he may not have access to the Zamasu to ramp, and that's okay as well, that's fine. Or he may not have access to even eliminators potentially, right? But it's one of those things that I guess if he does have access to it, it would have been probably worth wasting a card from hand, and then also, I guess, keeping those cards on board so we can try to ramp them as soon as possible, right? There's always that potential. So swinging in, I'm assuming into leader here for 16. Michael going to put some combo behind it, it looks like, trying to put some damage through. Potentially he combos out another Vegeta. Yep, had a feeling. Go for another Vegeta, why not, hey? Get this guy out. And then what we can do is just get, I guess, another guy onto the board. But Jesse here tapping down with the Zamasu super combo, which is quite nice. Paying 1 to get this out onto the board. I'm assuming here it's going to eat an eliminator. I would say the size of Jesse's hand, and at this point in the game, he should have access to at least 1, right? At least 1. So let's see what happens. Maybe not. Looks like paying a green. All right, so potentially passing turn here and then probably untapping that green, but it looks like maybe not. So we are going to go and pay add 2. So this one is the double striker, right, which is quite nice. Again, this is one that removes markers from unisons too, but we are going to hit an eliminator. So now we do have access to both a Goku Black and a Zamasu on the board here, which is quite nice for him. So he can hit any of the fused targets and then potentially get those ramps going for him, get closer to that 8 energy, right? So let's see what he decides to do here. Sidoti probably going to keep up some energy as well for his counterplays and things like that. So it looks like we are going to warp, playing out our SS4 once again, hitting another eliminator. So that's very, very unfortunate. Hitting it again. So as I said, it didn't surprise me that he had more than one at this point, but that kind of sucks for him. Probably either untapping a red or a green here. So I would say probably going for the red so he can get the counterplays going if he needs to, right? Because that counterplay Bardock is very, very strong. Looks like paying 2 energy, 1 yellow and 1 blue. So we are going to go into, I believe it's SS4. I want to say it's Goku. Pretty sure it's Goku. And what he's going to do is just choose the opponent's battle card with an energy cost of 4 or less and get rid of it. So that's quite nice for him, right? That's what he wants to do. Yep, so untapping the green. So probably that little bit of safety, I guess, with the SS4 Gohan, what he can do. So we'll see what he decides to go for here. Having access, though, to a Goku Black in energy is quite nice as well. So he can actually do that, ramp that into that. And then what he can do is play out one of those Zamasus. Once again, get the evolve, get another tragedy, ramp 2 potentially, right? So I guess that's one of those things is you can allow your opponent to build up a little bit of a board if you can kind of defend against it, I guess. So that way, when they do start to build up their board, you hit your tragedy, you ramp all that energy in this deck. Very, very powerful to be able to ramp all of that energy and then try to close out the game nice and early for you, all right? So Goku Black, we have got a charge still. Maybe another multicolor potentially. If we do have like a Beerus or something like that. It's just straight into energy. That's what it's there for. That's the best thing. So we are going to hit, it looks like a counterplay Trunks. Again, probably realizing his Unison isn't really going to hang around in this deck at all, unfortunately. It's so easy to clear, right? So As I said, this Bardock deck is really the Unison killer. It's quite nice. If you are versing Boo, only having 4, not really plussing, very easy to clear 4 markers off a Unison. Now, there's always that option, right, where if he has a Boo, he could pay a little bit more for it if he really wants to, so it does hang around for a little bit longer. Makes it a little bit harder for Michael to try to clear it, and I guess it forces him to use a lot of cards from hand to try to deal with this Boo Unison, and if that works for you, that always works for you, right? It's kind of attacks not going into the leader. So looks like we're grabbing an Eliminator off the top, so showing that we have it this time. Very good card. So this is pre-errata as well, so it can still hit Unisons at this point, right? Obviously with the new errata not hitting Unisons, I still think it is a strong card for sure. Don't get me wrong, still a very strong card. I think what they've done is they've tried to, I guess, balance it a little bit so that decks that specifically awaken off Unisons, right, and kind of need their game plan going early with the Unison are now not getting hit. So again, opens up the field to a few more decks coming into maybe taking the meta by storm, which I respect that. It was always sad though, because it is such a great card. Obviously, when you're playing it, very good. It's hard to play around as well. You got to be very skillful to play around it as well. So I always like that you have to do something like that and be skillful. As I said, you can always pay more energy for Unisons if you really need it. But a deck that needs a Unison on turn 2, right? It kind of sucks for them if they're going to pay 2 energy and just get it counterplayed straight away and then not being able to awaken. So we are going to pay 4, it looks like, for Boo once again, which is, to me, I guess a little bit surprising. I would probably pay a little bit more knowing that we do get an untap at the end of turn anyway. So I probably would have gone maybe like 5 energy for it. And then we have our Eliminator active going into this next turn, which I feel like you only need probably 1 on this next turn, I would say. So it looks like we are going to combo out this Vegeta. And we are going to pay the 1 to play it out. So we're going to protect our, I believe it's Goku, if I remember correctly. So we're going to protect that and playing out our Vegeta. Again, as I said, we have an Eliminator on board. We have a Goku Black in our energy. So it always is the potential that we can play into that Zamasu. Unfortunately, not being able to do the evolve this turn because we don't have enough energy. Unless he does decide to, I guess, swing with something else, and then he can do his maybe like Sensu Bean or something like that. So he is going to place, looks like, a Goku Black into the energy, paying, it looks like, 1. And we are, it looks like, going to get rid. Yep, so playing out the Zamasu with the energy. And then bouncing it to hand, I believe. And then swing in now, probably into leader. And we are going to go for the negative Dragon Balls here, just SR. So Indestructible obviously hangs around, can't be removed by skills, but can clear his board just here. So maybe Jesse not really going too much for the alternate win con, but the fact that he can, I guess, get around all of these other cards and all of these swings as well is quite nice for him. Card is very, very strong. It's not played very often, but I think if you're a deck that can build up a bit of drop area, it's so easy to use to just clear your opponent's entire board. And especially when you've got indestructible cards as well that can't be affected, you've now got rid of all of those cards. So that's very nice for him. So we are going to pass turn here. Michael having access to quite a bit of energy. As I said, most of the things in this deck are like 2 cost, 3 cost. Once again, the decision's hard. So he can, I guess, decide to once again clear the Unison. So he could potentially charge or play out that card that's going to remove a marker, swing into it with his leader, take 2 because of the swing as well. And then maybe swinging into it with the last battle card, he minuses 1, bottom decks it, you get rid of that Unison. Because I think the longer that hangs around that Unison, the better it gets. It's just so very, very valuable. Hard thing here, though, I guess, for Michael is that we have access to an Eliminator. We know it's in hand, and we also have the energy available to use it. So, looks like no charge. Swinging in just here. Now, I'm assuming into Boo Unison. I think that's where it was pointing. So I think swinging into Boo Unison, right? We're going to minus a marker, draw a card. Obviously, Jesse has a response if he wishes to it. So let's just see what he decides to go for here. Looks like no response. I don't think Michael drew. I think he's probably having a look at the cards in his hand. I think he forgot to draw. Looks like we're paying 1 for combo. So maybe going into leader just there, resting as Zamasu and then removing a marker. I don't think Michael drew. I think he forgot to draw just there, which is unfortunate, obviously having a few more cards in hand. So maybe he is trying to go for a bit of the closeout this turn if he can. Try to put that pressure on. But as I said, we know we have access to eliminators. So there's whatever card we try to play there is going to get bounced. And we also know we have access to the -1 on the Boo as well. So it's always that potential that we should have tried to clear that this turn and just getting off the board. But I respect it. We need to go for life eventually, because the longer this game goes on, the better it's going to get for Zamasu, because there's always the more potential for them to ramp. So let's see what he decides to go for here. I'm assuming he's probably going to go for, once again, that SS4 Gohan, right? He's going to try to hit that again. So we're going to... Yep, and we know we're going to eat an eliminator, unfortunately. Card is very, very strong as well, right, when that card hits the board. So it looks like instead, though, we're going to hit a chain of counterplays, which is awesome. So we are going to hit the Bardock just here, right? So we're going to play into the Gohan. That's going to go the eliminator, and then we are going to hit the Bardock. So it's not even going to get counterplay. It's not even going to be played. So he's now built up 2 cards onto his board, which is quite nice, right? And then we also have access to something that's going to remove a marker, and we have access to double strike as well, right? So there's always that potential here, is where he tries to clear the Boo Unison, right? We were going into leader before, but now we have access to maybe clear the Boo Unison. Now I'd say we swing the double strike in just to get the minus on the marker, right? We know that's going to happen. He doesn't want to let it die that easily. So more than likely we swing in with the double strike into the Boo Unison. Or if he feels like he can start going for game, potentially swings into leader, know it's going to get eaten, and then we can kill the we can kill it with the Bardock potentially, right? But I'm assuming, pointing to the right there, I'm assuming this is going into the Boo Unison, just trying to get it off the board as soon as we can, right? Double strike into that card's always very good. So it looks like we are going to Dimension Magic, untapping an energy. So rather than doing the -1, I respect that. So just protecting it with a negate and then not having to lose any markers. So then we can keep it hanging around. And I'm pretty sure Michael's pretty much tapped out. I think he's got 1 yellow energy just here, right? I think we may be swinging... Sorry, yeah. I think he just realized he was swinging into it, but realized it has indestructible, right? So it can't be killed. It can only be minus. So it can be minus to 0, that's fine, but we can't kill it with any attacks. And we can't get rid of it with any effects either, or skills or anything like that. The only thing really is minusing, because it is a game mechanic. So I think we are swinging into the Boo Unison here. More than likely. Looks like we are going to go for our super combo. Just hitting up to 26. I don't think we'd be going any further than that, right? I think we're going to stay right there, so we just lose a marker on it. Untapping, end of turn. So I'm not too sure if Michael still runs Bean in the deck. I'm pretty sure he does. I think we saw some before when he did an SS4 call. Him not untapping, I guess, a blue... Right, kind of shows that maybe he doesn't have access to Bean. But also, I think he realizes that his counterplay is very important in this matchup. So it looks like we're going to swing 15 into 16 here into the SS4 Gohan, right? Because otherwise, if he swings into leader, he obviously loses that 5k. So 15 to 16. More than likely, he's just going to leave it there. I probably wouldn't combo up. I don't think it's really worth it. I think at this point... he probably wants to hit something that he can ramp these cards with anyway. So we want to try to get, if Michael plays out a third card, right? So he plays out a third card. I think that's where we want to get the ramp. So if he does decide to play either a counterplay or he goes into one of the other SS4s, either the Goku or the Vegeta that plays out after the combo step, that gives us access to our 8 energy. Michael is now at 4 life as well. So we do have the potential that we can try to close out that way, right? But I think what he's doing is he's trying to put pressure into the leader as well. You get Michael to use a few cards from hand and potentially combo out either one of those Gokus or Vegetas, or maybe even both. But we do have access on Jesse's side, a lot of energy here. So I believe we're at 7. Yeah, so it looks like we're at 7. I don't think one's hidden underneath at all. I think we're at 7 energy, right? So very, very powerful. We do have the access to... So we have access to our SR if we need to. So it looks like we are going to bounce back to hand, I believe that was. Now we should have at least one more eliminator left. But I guess the good thing for Michael here is if he does get that card onto the board, he can clear that Boo very easily. But what he may decide to do instead is just, I think he's got only one marker left if I remember correct. So what he can do is potentially just swing into the leader. It is a 20k, and then he can minus that last marker off the Boo here, and then just get it off the board straight away. So I think we're swinging into leader if there's only one marker left on the Boo, which I believe there is only one marker left. So yes, so minusing that marker, resting, and then we do get to draw a card as well. And I think Michael didn't draw again. I think he forgot to draw once more. He's looking at his combo. So yeah, I think he forgot to draw once again, which kind of sucks, right? We do want to get that draw going. So it looks like we're going to combo. We know we're never going to get to play that card. He doesn't have a way to clear. So taking it up to 25. Jesse probably feeling quite comfortable here. He's got quite a lot of cards in hand. Probably thinks he can close out the game going into this next turn anyway. So let's see what he can do here for Michael. Again, good thing is, as I said, most of his cards are underneath Tragedy, so he can still keep playing the game like he usually would. Only downside is as well is that he can't keep charging. So the more energy this deck gets, obviously the stronger it can get. But the more energy it gets against this deck is very scary. And Michael has played against it before. He has been playing for some time. So he knows there's a certain point where you just have to stop charging any energy, right? And try to keep the board a little bit clear. Because I guess the longer it goes on, if you start to charge too much, that's when you can kind of lose. So we are going for, it looks like Hellies here. So going to discard and draw 2. Quite nice. I'm assuming that's probably like a one of in the deck, because I'm assuming we're running more of the Zamasus, right? Because we can get them off the top, but still pretty nice. Very similar to the super combos we have now, but we just bottom deck instead. So I think that was the, I want to say Ultimate Box, I think it was back in the day that first released that. And I think it was after Hoi Super Combo had come out, I believe, and that was like the second Super Combo that ever did that was the Hellies, which is pretty insane, I guess, when you look at it. So we are going to hit, it looks like this Zamasu here, because we can minus it enough to get it off the board, which is quite nice. As I said, obviously, being able to minus an indestructible card can clear it off the board. So again, I'm pretty sure it has indestructible, right? I don't think, unless he has negated the effects with something, which potentially he could have. And that way we can actually kill it in the combo step maybe, right? Because I believe what it does is it minuses 2 for every color in your energy. And then I think maybe the Vegeta gets rid of effects. I cannot remember off the top of my head, unfortunately, guys. There is that potential, and that's why he's trying to kill it here instead, right? To try to put some damage through. Now, if I was Jesse, I would more than likely protect this card. I think this card being able to hang around is very powerful for him. As I said, it gives him access to another tragedy if he wants to do that. And then exactly what he can do is he can ramp the 3 cards that are on the board right now. Yeah. And that's exactly 8. Yeah, so he can do that quite easily. We are going to bean twice. So we're really going to try to protect this card, right? So beaning twice so it is back up to a higher power. And as I said, if he gets tragedy here, that's game, unfortunately. So if he can do his evolve and then goes into the other tragedy, that is game just there, because we do have 3 cards on the board. That is 8. So what he's going to have to do here is probably hope for it here in the top if he doesn't have it in hand, because I'm assuming if he has it in hand, he would have played it straight away, just got it straight out onto the board, and there we go. So there we go, guys. So right off the top, right? So he's found it right off the top, which is perfect for him. So he's grabbed his Zamasu. He pays the 4 energy, evolve, sack it straight away. Don't need to swing. We just sack it straight away, go into the tragedy, right? That puts us at 8. So he replaces that one there because it is a field. Puts you at the 8 because all of them go in, correct? I believe it's all in rest mode. That's your 8. Close out the game. So there we go. We actually got to see the alternate win con on Zamasu there, guys. So as I said, building up that board, unfortunately, can be a little bit of a hindrance, but he had to do it to try to close out the game. I hope you guys did enjoy the gameplay video. If you did, please remember to subscribe, hit that bell to stay notified, and we'll catch you guys on the next one.